Alright, welcome back to Quest Atlas. I'm going to start working on the southern part of the continent. I'll just start working on the coastline a bit, and then I'll start working on some more of the geography. Let's just see how this goes. Alright, I think that looks good there. We have an interesting gulf down here. I can possibly use to put some interesting islands. I'm not sure if I like how blocky that is over there. Well, I'll leave it as it is for now. Can always change it around later. I have this nice large open area here. I don't want it to be too mountainous. I don't have any large expanses as yet. And I want to have a sort of a classical medieval kingdom with lots of space. So I think I'm going to leave that as is. I'm not going to expand this mountain range too far. I'm going to figure out where this river goes. Have it meander a bit. Have it go this way. Someone on Reddit or possibly YouTube pointed out that it's important to notice that rivers divide up, they can split as they go down. So, I mean, that was a very good point. I haven't been doing too much of that. Interesting to see what happens to this one. If they wanted to split into some tributaries. It gets formed over there. have it go most of the length of this continent. Take out somewhere in the south down here. Okay. I'm not sure where to add the tributaries yet. Let me get my eraser and I can make a couple adjustments. Okay. Let's put some in. This lake is going to have more than one river coming out of it. Right there. I often obsess about my maps and try and get them as perfect as possible. One nice thing about doing this video format is that it's forcing me to think on my feet a little bit more, which I think is good. I'd like to have a nice, large delta system coming down out of here. Those are always a lot of fun. That's more interesting. Can have some really interesting cities down there at the mouth of the river. It'll probably be a major port city, given the size of the and importance of the river going up and down. Let's add another tributary or two. Gotta love some good river systems. Always make for an interesting part of the world. Okay, I like that. Happy with that river. We know that a forest starts up here. Be interesting to see where this forest goes. But before we do that, let's make sure that we figured out where most of our elevated terrain is. I don't want to have too many mountains. Maybe we have a little bit of a path going over to this side so that we have some mountains. Along the coast. Not too many, but something like that. Ooh, and that gives us an opportunity to pull some rivers perhaps down in this direction. That's nice. This area is going to be quite fertile. I should think. Ooh, how about an island in here? Island or two. That's interesting. And one more river going out that way. Okay. Now I want this area to be fairly flat, a large open area where we can have a kind of expansive kingdom. I don't know too much about the culture. From all the rivers in the this whole delta system, it makes me think that it's a bit swampy and maybe hotter, maybe like the New Orleans area or something like that. Though that does seem like a large temperature change from the rather cold area in the north. Or I suppose the area in the north doesn't have to be too cold. And again, I haven't figured out the scale too much. But let's leave this perhaps not too much like New Orleans. Maybe this continent isn't as big as I thought. But let's give it some interesting culture. Some elevated terrain. From this part of the world. This area is going to be fairly swampy. Not sure I'm going to represent that yet. We'll work on it. Let's look at our forests. That can be our next step. Forests. This forest. Yeah. Forest is going to extend down this way. Maybe able to hear some of my neighbors next door. I have quite a few of them. They're a bit of a rowdy bunch. Nice people. They tend to just hang outside the apartment at all hours of the day and night. Just hanging out. It's actually a little bit of a nice change from where I used to live. People seem to actually enjoy hanging out with each other, even if they're a bit noisy. I wish I could figure out a better way to draw forests. It's always been a bit of a problem for me, and I think it's a problem for a lot of people. I've seen some people draw it, each individual tree, in fact, where they just draw little tree trunks, a little bushy top, over and over again. You could add little tree trunks along the borders of your forest. It helps delineate where the edges are. It's also good to have large forests in your worlds. Nice large expanses of forest make for great storytelling opportunities, for adventures, for all sorts of things. Okay. Don't want to spend too long on this. That's roughly where the forest is. Goes a little bit that way. Okay. Let's move straight on to doing some cities. Definitely a large city down here. I'm going to put it right on this island in the delta. You know what? Let's take that back and let's make that a capital city. I think we should have another symbol for that. Usually how I draw that is I draw a dot, and then I draw a star surrounding it. Just to clarify. It's a more important city. Definitely a town up here along the lake. Definitely one a little bit upstream. That's a pretty important one. We're going to have one... Because this area is fairly fertile, it's not going to be as necessary to be along rivers as it was in some other parts of the world. So I'm not going to concern myself with it as much. I am going to have some mountain towns, because I haven't had much of those yet. Mountainous area there. Somewhat hilly area over here. Okay. What kind of culture does this most look like? If you have any ideas, let me know. Again, naming is something I usually do last. That's one of the most interesting parts. When you start adding names to the different parts of the world, it brings out so much of the flavor. They start seeming like real places when you start doing that. Large town near the edge of the forest. Spreads them out in an interesting way. I'd like this area to be more densely populated. Let's put some more towns in there. More organized. Maybe there's more of a more centralized kingdom in this area. It keeps track of what's going on. All right. What are the major trade routes? There's definitely a lot of trade coming down this river. One of the main paths is going to come along the edge of the forest. This road is going to be interesting. They're going to have to circumvent this part of the forest. And then split up around this hilly area to try and avoid it for the most part. I don't really think there should be a town down here. Alright, going to this town. This town snakes its way along this road. To that town, and further south to the main city. We have this long road going up this way. Just need to split off as it forks, going around to here. This road comes down that way. It's this road south and then cuts across. This road doesn't bother going that way at all. Perhaps there is a fort of some sort there. And that there's a kind of ford that goes across that way. That's interesting. I should add more forts and strongholds around. They're interesting to add on. Let's get a couple more roads in before we finish up. Alright, it's good enough for this time. Next time we'll try and fill it in, add some more details to the terrain, and perhaps branch out about this way. Alright, thanks for watching. If you like, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.